Hello, everyone. My name is Opal Singleton. I'm the president and CEO of Million Kids. That is millionkids.org. And welcome to the Protect and Prevent podcast. This is a podcast that we have developed for many years now. We've been educating the public all kinds of ways. I do a tremendous amount of public speaking in my time. I've trained well over 750,000 people, and I've been working with, as the president of Million Kids now, about 15 years. We have, for the last 14 years, served as the training and outreach coordinator for the Riverside County, that is California, Southern California, Riverside County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. And that is a task force of men and women who go out and really, get the worst of the worst that are really violating our children. And over a period of time, I've also trained about 750,000 people. I am a post-certified law enforcement instructor. I sat on the curriculum, had developed the curriculum in California for law enforcement. I understand they're right in the process of maybe upgrading it at this point. But I was involved in the original curriculum that was developed for law enforcement related to human trafficking. So for the past 15 years, through the organization Million Kids, we have educated all kinds of individuals, professionals of all ilks, if you will. I really, truly enjoyed training first responders like fire departments and medical personnel and health personnel and social workers and people like that. But near and dear to my heart are parents and grandparents. And so that's why we developed this podcast. And we're going to cover a lot of different subjects over a period of time. But this particular one is podcast number 4. You can get them all at millionkids.org. I believe they're also on Spotify and Apple, and we have our own YouTube channel, so you can look at them over and over or listen to them over and over. I guess in this case, they're only vocal. Sometimes we make videos, but not this time. But you can share them with other people, and you can keep going back to them. So I just did a podcast on online seduction, and I really want to elaborate on that again in the rest of this particular podcast. I've been fascinated by online seduction ever since I've been in the business because this started way back 2010 when online was like driving a Model T today. AOL was the hot number right at those times. I remember MySpace. So online has changed dramatically over the last 15 years. So we're going to talk about online seduction. Before I go any farther, though, I will tell you the number one thing that I deal with when I deal with real cases, and I do, believe me, we get leads, people call us and like that and ask us to be involved. We get real cases. The number one thing that all of us in this business deals with is this kind of concept that it won't happen to me. And that applies to parents. It's not going to happen to my kid. My kid's too smart, like that. And I've told him I'd kill him if he ever tries that, or a parent, would do it and like that. But it's also with young people. They think, oh, mom, I'll know if I'm being catfished. No, you won't. Okay. But it's okay. I get it. But that's the number one thing that we deal with. So we're going to talk about the whole process of online seduction. Before I kind of wrote out the backbone of what I wanted to tell you today, I got out a book that I wrote way back when. It's an older book, by the way. It's still available if you want to read it on Amazon and also on millionkids.org. It's called Seduce, the Grooming of America's Teenagers. And I thought, I haven't read my own book for a long time. Let's get it out and see if it's still applicable. And also see what's changed. And yeah, the technology's changed, but the principles have not. So the book is still very, very valid. So I want to talk about all the elements that give predators the one-upsman, if you will. It gives them that a chance to go in and reach our kids. And by the way, it isn't just kids. It's grandma and grandpa nowadays too. Anybody that is playing around online is vulnerable to being seduced. I will tell you that even though I'm a master of all this, I've been studying, I've probably read, I have tens of thousands of hours of research on it. I probably read 10,000 articles. That could be an exaggeration, to be fair, but I've read a lot of articles about this. I found myself being taken in the other day. I got a notification that we had received a grant from an organization down in La Jolla. And of course, being skeptical like I am, because I had not applied for that grant, I went in and looked them up, and they appear to be a legitimate organization. But everything in me said, if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. Okay. And so I carefully responded to them. I have very good virus software, by the way, and just kind of was fishing around to see how they would respond. And they wrote back and go, "Oh yes, we've awarded a certain number of grants, but we're going to need this much private information from you." Hello, run, baby, run. I wasn't born yesterday, and you're not going to give me $10 million or whatever the thing was. Okay. But it's, all of us are easily seduced online. And I want to talk about some of the elements that make it that way. Because I not only deal with our kids who get involved with sextortion or social media exploitation, meet somebody online, fall in love, send a nude, maybe they get blackmailed, but we're seeing this over and over with grandma and grandpa too. They're widowed or widowered, or they're divorced and they're lonely, and they go online, and the next thing you know, they think they're going to be smart enough not to get taken in. And before you know it, some of them have lost their life savings. And it is really, really tragic. But you know what? As crazy as it is now, we're just getting started. And that's the purpose of this podcast, is to really bring you up to date on how this works. So the first thing I want to just get you to think about is how technology has changed in the last couple of years. I wrote a second book a couple of years ago. You can buy that also if you want to, by the way, either at millionkids.org. I'll sign it for you, or you can buy it on amazon.com for what it's worth. But it's called Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. And I've been thinking about writing a third one, but, right now it's easier to podcast. So I'll just share it with you and I don't have to type it. Okay. But I want you to think about what has happened since COVID. That's 4 years ago, but even in the last 3 years, if you will, the number one thing that makes it absolutely different than it was before is mass audience live streaming. What happened is about 2022, 23, early 24, the entire world became connected by internet. Now, if you get nothing else out of this podcast, pay attention to this one factor, because this is earth-changing. It is absolutely mind-boggling what that means. And I think very few leaders around the globe understand the power of what I'm about to tell you. And that is, for the first time in all of history, the entire world is connected by internet. That has never happened before. And you say to yourself, well, okay, that's kind of fascinating. But what does that have to do with me? And more important, with my child or my elderly person? What that means is third world countries now have high-speed 5G, high-speed internet. And they can connect to you. They can connect to your lonely grandfather that maybe is a widow. They can connect to your 9-year-old child if they're playing on Roblox. So your child, when they go online, is not just talking to the people they know, but they are in apps that have millions of followers. If they're on Fortnite, if they're on Roblox, if they're on any kind of World Wide Web app like Instagram or TikTok, they're on there with billions of followers. Literally now, there are more than 5 billion people online at any given time. And if they find their child, your child, and decide they want to communicate with them, or seduce them, they can do that because the technology exists today. So when you're putting your child online, if they're not in a private chat room, if they're not in a private setting, they can be accessed. And it is that simple. You are literally putting your child on the World Wide Web. Now, one of the problems with that is your child thinks of it as just some video game, some social media lark where they're talking to people they know. And it's like, oh, mom, I'll know them if it's somebody from Nigeria. I think I'll know. No, you won't know. Okay. And neither will you, mom and dad, until it becomes hurtful in your life's family. So that is the first thing that made all the difference. A world without borders for your kids is a world without borders for pimps, for predators, for pedophiles, for gangs, for cartels, and organized crime. And you are all sharing the same system now. So when you put your child online, you need to explain to them who they are going on there with. You know, to put a 9-year-old kid, I'm going to get salty on you here, bear with me, but to put a 9-year-old kid on the World Wide Web without explaining who they're on there with and what is capable of doing is a little bit like taking your child down to a strip club and leaving them off and saying, how'd that work out for you? Because they are on there with all kinds of people and they go on with this kind of naive belief that most people are good. Well, we don't want our children to think that most people are bad. But if you're going to be on the World Wide Web, you need to know that there's at least 500,000 bad guys on there with you at any given time. And now that we're globally connected, it could easily be 1 or 2 or 3 billion people. I sometimes, when I speak, I give a case of a mother who came up to me at I think it was a Rotary or one of those kind of meetings. And she was a great mother, by the way. I was very impressed with her, but I was talking about mass audience live streaming, and she was telling me how proud she was of her daughter because she wants to be an influencer, and she has 1 million followers. Well, okay, that's cool, as long as the daughter understands the world she's in. So I said to mom, how old is your daughter? Well, it turns out the daughter's only 11. Hello. I have some great slides to illustrate this when I'm speaking publicly. Anyway, and think about this. Your 11-year-old daughter wants to be a worldwide phenomenon. But think about it from a pedophile's point of view. She's on there, doing her thing, trying to be an influencer. All a pedophile from Nigeria or Pakistan has to do, I'm picking on those countries, but it's any country, Myanmar, Cambodia, or it can be Venezuela. All anyone has to do is connect with your child and say, hey, baby, you are hot. Go in those chat rooms where influencers hang out. And, that's all a pedophile has to do is sign up and wait now, because they can access the same chat room that your daughter is performing in. And they're, hey, baby, you're hot. Meet me on Instagram. Get me a bunch more photos. I'm an agent. I'm going to make you famous. And it will go that quickly. Now, we just learned something right there that I want to take a minute to teach you. I talked about it in the last podcast, but it bears repeating. And that is the first thing a pedophile will do is move you from one app to the other. Hey, baby, you're hot. Meet me on Instagram and get me more photos. What happened? They moved her from TikTok to Instagram. Why does a bad guy do that? Or a girl, by the way. There are bad female predators too. Why do they do that? Because they want to see if you're undercover law enforcement, and they're also looking to see if you're going to be willing to follow them. And so that's the first sign that you're dealing with somebody who doesn't have your best interest at heart, is they will move you from one app to the other. So, what has happened by mass audience live streaming, if you go on any of these kind of apps like TikTok or Like or Byte or Dance or Roblox, those video games that have mass audience live streaming, literally look them up. You will be amazed at how many million, and in a couple of cases, billion. TikTok now has more than 1 billion followers. Not every one of them is going to be able to access your child, but enough of them are that your child needs to understand the world that they're living in and what is going to happen when you put them there, or your child is going to get violated. So online seduction, you have to understand the change in technology. So now they're not in a private chat room anymore. They're on there with literally millions of people who want to find them. On top of it, almost every app now has geolocation software. So if your child is on there, they're going to know a lot about your child's location. And by the way, that's true of those dating sites and those hookup sites and all of the above. That is a common thing we're seeing in the LGBTQI community is you'll get a young man, maybe 12, 13 years old. He wants to experiment with, alternate choices. He doesn't want to talk to mom and dad about it. So he goes on Grindr, Grindr, Grindr. There's no E in it, by the way. Grindr is the biggest LGBTQI dating site. Can't get all those out, but it's the biggest gay dating site out there, and it has geolocation software. So online seduction will work. Somebody will come on and they'll go, "Oh, you're thinking about an alternate life. Hey, we're only 4 miles apart. I can help you with that. Let's meet up. You don't have to talk to your folks, and I'll help you." And that's exactly how it all works. Okay. Many of these now have on their AI generated communications. Now, that is a huge impact in being able to seduce your kids or a lonely widower or a divorced person. Because with AI, they will know just about everything about you, including the size of your underwear and what brand of toothpaste you use. So it's very easy for them to make jokes about everyday things that seem harmless because they're going to be able to create a profile of themselves that match the profile of the victim that they are talking to. So they can very quickly win over your trust, especially if you're on one of those dating sites. Hey, you're into the Bee Gees or whoever, that you're out there. Okay, I have that in common with you. Hey, I saw this movie the other night. Hey, you go to this school. I live not too far from there. Or I went to that school. You can find commonality because so much information is gathered up from artificial intelligence. There's another factor with that. And that is that even if you're talking by video and you think you know the person you're talking to, a lot of those videos are now so well AI generated that you will not realize that you are not talking to the person you think they are. But one of the biggest ones on there are the changes in technology that's taken place in our last 2 years is literally that almost every app, every site has some sort of money transfer, some payment method, whether it's Zelle or PayPal or Bitcoin or all of the above. The reason I want you to think about that is that now sextortion, that is what we call financial sextortion, is getting to be one of the largest crimes against children in the world, and especially against young males. And it is not limited to U.S. kids, but we are having a epidemic of young men killing themselves because they sent a nude to what they thought was a hot 14-year-old girl, and it turns out to be a Nigerian cartel that is now hammering that child to come up with money, and a lot of it, or they're going to be destroyed. In fact, while we're talking about technology, one of the things that makes that kind of blackmail so powerful is that they literally can go in and get a list of all your internet followers from Instagram. all your followers from TikTok, and they get that young person to send that nude photo thinking it's a hot 14-year-old girl. And suddenly that nude photo is presented to that young man. And here he is in all of his naked glory with an entire list of all of his Instagram followers and all of his TikTok followers. And they will say, "You're ruined. You're through. We're going to destroy you. Every one of these people on this list is getting this photo. If you don't give me $3,500 by Zelle or by PayPal or by your Bitcoin account before midnight tonight." And that kid will lose their mind. And this is happening to some of the finest young men you've ever seen. Some girls, but mostly young men in this financial sextortion. That's what that term is called, financial sextortion. This is because third world countries now can reach our kids. And they literally bring in their kids over there to pretend to be a 14-year-old girl to our kids. They get them in a weak moment. These are great kids. Most of them are super achievers. In fact, when they take their own life, the parents are devastated. Can you imagine losing your child to a Nigerian telemarketing scam because you didn't know about it and you didn't know how to talk to your child about it? We've got to change the way we do this. Our kids and you need to understand the power of technology in these financial crimes. I've dealt with these cases where they've said, the kid has given him 500, 1,000, some of them 3,500. I knew one kid that actually saw the movie. And yes, we have a movie online if you want to see it called Sextortion, The Hidden Pandemic. It's on Amazon. But one kid came to see that movie and he had paid a Nigerian telemarketing company $8,000. You will never be able to give them enough money. We got to get out in front of this, mom and dad. We need to create resources to educate our kids in school and educate kids in churches and educate parents so that they understand what is happening. That is only possible because the entire world is now connected by internet. We have mass audience live streaming. We have geolocation software, and we have money transfer. And we have not yet educated our kids on the world that we are putting them into. So seduction works online by getting a sense of familiarity. Our kids think they know this person. I've seen so many sextortion cases that started because literally what happened is they allowed a friend of a friend request. They get a friend request and they think, yeah, I kind of know that person. So yeah, they're a friend of so-and-so. I'll let them in. Well, all that's happened is one of those Nigerian telemarketing companies has gone in and seen everybody that you friended, and they Google you and they find out that you're friends with that person. And so it's very easy to worm your way into that person's life. But it's also easy because of the fact that our kids, when they go online, do not have a clear understanding of how the internet is made. And without that, it feels like a world without borders. It feels harmless. It feels like one big love fest that we're going to go on, and I'm going to be cute and they're going to like me and I'm going to get lots of likes and everybody at school is going to think I'm wonderful. And I'm going to post this hot picture and, we're going to text back and forth and we're going to take some challenges and I'll win. And we go back and forth as it's a closed society. Nothing online is a closed society, and our kids have to get this message. It is such an important message to get to our kids. And so that is one of the problems is our kids are unable to visualize the next step that's about to happen to them. They're unable to visualize that there are now 5 billion people online with probably several million of them being from foreign countries. And mom and dad, the reason I'm doing this sextortion kind of talk right now, this podcast, is to get you to think Now, I'm going to probably end this at 30 minutes today, and then I'm going to make another one. I might make section number 3 on this, so that because you can only take in so much of this information at a time. But one of the problems and one of the challenges for mom and dad is to educate yourself about where we're at online. That literally we have places in Nigeria and Philippines and Ivory Coast, and they get up every day with the idea of using their poor kids to trick our kids. They do not have to send the cartel across the border, although that is happening. They simply access your child's bedroom or their office, their classroom, or, their social life, just by seeming like an innocent kind of thing until they lure you in. One of the things that I hope puts the fear of God in all of us, including myself, is that we're just getting started. Imagine that this has only been going on for a year and a half. Imagine the number of third world countries that want our money in the U.S., and they don't mind destroying our naive young people who are easy to seduce to get it, because it is a billion, maybe $1 trillion industry for them. And if you're living in the outskirts of Myanmar somewhere and you have a chance to get $3,000 from some poor guy by simply sending him 1,000 texts in a 24-hour period and threatening to destroy his life because he sent a nude, you're not going to think twice. So we're just getting started on this crime of sextortion, and in this case, financial sextortion. This is able to happen because the grooming process online seems so simple and easy to ignore. It feels like you can just trust everybody out there. Now, if you ask a kid, he'll say, or she'll say, no, I don't trust everybody out there. But their insides say, that they really like having this social life. And they think, well, you have to take risks every now and then. And I'm going to spot it because they're going to look like somebody from Nigeria to me. They don't, and technology makes it so they don't have to. Now, I'm going to close out this podcast for the 30 minutes, and we'll go in. I'm going to start a second one here in a minute. But mom and dad, this is what you watch for. If you think your child is a victim of sextortion, their behavior will change. All of a sudden, first of all, they get very tense. They get very preoccupied. They also get very private. Now, if you're thinking they're going to come to you and ask for help, they're not, unless you and them sit down long before it happens and start to have that dialogue about, I want you to learn this with me. I want you to hear these podcasts. I want you to go on these sites, and we're going to be leaders together. You see, our challenge as parents is to make leaders of our kids. I believe this is the first generation in all of history that can reach the entire world, but the entire world can reach them. We got to get this right, mom and dad. This generation will be the generation that leads all future generations, their younger brothers and sisters, the younger people and their peer groups. And it is this generation that has got to be able to sit down with mom and pop and grandma and grandpa and build a social media contract. Okay, their behavior will change. They'll get very secretive. They'll close the iPad. You walk down the hall, they shut it down. If you think this is happening, don't count on the fact they're going to come talk to you. Every one of these kids that have taken their own life, I've sat through those just grueling videos of their parents going, I would have bet my eye teeth that kid would have come to me. And yet they walked right past me and they didn't. Or they'll say, that kid is 6 foot tall and he's 17 years old and I quit checking the phone. Mom and dad, we need these conversations, and we got to get out in front of it. They'll change their behavior. Sit down with them. Put away the wagging finger and the threat to take away the technology and say, you and I got to learn this together. This is the most exciting time, but it's the most terrifying time. I'm reading about it. I want you to read about it because I'm counting on you to be the leader to your younger brothers and sisters, your younger nieces and nephews, to help me understand understand it and you understand it. I suggest you get a contract with your children that every app they have on their phone, you're going to have, and you're going to learn how to use it. That they will never knowingly post anything online that will embarrass them or embarrass you. That they will never go out and get in a car with someone they met online. And number 4, if they find themselves in trouble, they will trust you enough to understand, and you need to welcome and relish that trust. Don't wag the finger. Sit down and give them a hug. Whatever is going on here is bigger than you and me, and it's going to take both of us to get through it. My name is Opal Singleton. The organization is millionkids.org. You can write to me at opal, OPAL, at millionkids.org. We'll see you next time on this podcast on Protect and Prevent.